Right, so I'm glad I'm back. I've had something on my mind last few days, and I've got to be honest, I've been really desperate to kind of, I don't want to say get it off my chest, but just share it, if that makes sense. So essentially, I'm in the middle of doing a research project at the moment on it's the transference of leadership skills from ex-military personnel to specifically project management roles in a civilian capacity, so post military. What the whole point in this was, so the kind of the three main themes that I was looking at was initially if there is any, what would you call it, any trends in terms of the leadership skills that these ex-military believe they have. Also, if there's anything they believe they have an advantage of over people that weren't in the military, and then just any other trends. But and there was a really interesting third theme, and I'll come back to that in a bit. But so essentially, when you look at the information, and I did some interviews, so it's I basically had to interpret the information. It's qualitative data, so it's I mean, even to begin with, it's quite unreliable because it's relying on me interpreting the data. Uh, Obviously, all the transcripts are there, so people can make of it what they will, but I'm having to interpret what these people are saying. They're quite simple questions in terms of, what skills do you believe you learned as a leader from the military? Do you believe these have given you an advantage in your project management role? And uh, kind of that's the main example. Now, here's the thing: there are a lot of limitations in this, which again I'm very aware of, and it does become a bit of a problem because it is such a narrow field of, I suppose, what would you call them? A pool of people that I'm trying to get, and the more you look into it, the more holes you can pick into it. So I did manage to get people that are purely from the British military, but now is when it starts falling apart because you've got different eras, so different ages. I think the oldest was mid 50s and the youngest was late 20s. So you've got different eras that they were in the military. You've got some that were in the Navy, some that were in the Army, and some that were in the Air Force. So again, they've all got different experiences, and then it could be on an individual experience. So you could say to someone, "Do you believe you learnt a lot in the military, leadership wise?" And they might have just. Oh, sorry, that's the other thing is how long they served. So if you had someone who served for 3 years and they had just crap leaders in that time, they might not have learnt that much. But if you had someone who was in there 20 years and they had more chance of being exposed to good leaders, then they might have learnt more. So again, it massively depends on the duration. You might have two people that are serving in the infantry, both in the army infantry, but both had completely different experiences because say they went in, just happened to be the same age. They went in they joined in the same year, both in the infantry, but one went on tour and the other didn't. Again, completely different experiences. One might have a really good leader, say mature, older leader. The other one might have a very young, inexperienced, poor officer who was just really bad. So again, it's very individual. Then you've got on the other end of it. When I say has it helped you in your project management career, then you've got the issue of uh, who is it they work for? None of these people work for the same company as a project manager. So if I've got one that is working as a project manager in a construction capacity and then another one working in defence, but the two that say there's two that work in defence and they're at different companies, but you've got two that work at the same company, but one is mainly doing construction and the other is doing defence, then again they've all got completely different roles as project managers, if that makes sense. So it's very difficult to get the results, to kind of get consistent results. I would need to get 10 people that all served within, let's just say, the Marines, all roughly the same age, all in the same sort of year, had the same experiences, and then went on to work for the same company. But then it's it's so difficult. So it is a case of, I think, getting a larger pool to get a more accurate um, more accurate results, if that makes sense. But nevertheless, the results were incredibly interesting, and some of the trends, they are your kind of your standard results, if that makes sense. Now, in terms of traits, sorry, so your standard traits. So they will say things like good at problem solving, good at man management, good at coaching, for example, or good at maintaining morale. Now, all these things are your buzzwords of leaders anyway. Now, here's something else that I thought is a massive flaw within leadership within the military, and this I found fascinating. So when you say to someone in the military, are you or were you a good leader within the military? And they say, yes, I was good. Uh, I was very good at getting everyone to get on board with the plan, and everyone was on the same, wanted to achieve the same objective, blah, blah, blah. Now, the reason this kind of falls apart is because I'm interviewing people that have signed up for the military. This isn't people who've conscripted. These aren't soldiers in Ukraine who are trying to defend their country against, an invading force. These are people that are signed up. So when you sign up, you know that you are signing up to go into a situation where you're going to be shouted at and told to lay down in the mud and blah blah blah. When you're in your basic training, they're gonna kind of give you the treatment, but you're signing up for that. Now, some people don't quite get it and they're not quite prepared for it, and then they quit. But the point is, everyone should know or should understand that that is what you're signing up for. Then you understand that you are in a group, and you have a commander, you have someone in charge of you, and when they say something, you do it. And again, you've signed up for that. If you think of the film Tigerland with Colin Farrell, and he's just a pain in the ass, that's because he was conscripted. I want to say it was set in the Vietnam War, I think, period. And they were trying to train him, and all he kept trying to do was escape, and he was just a pain in the ass, and constantly disrupting training, and that's because he was conscripted. And this is what I'm saying: if you have a group of soldiers and you are put in charge of those other soldiers, and they say, right, I need you to get your group to all be on the same wavelength to achieve the same goal. Well, it's quite easy because they've signed up for that anyway. They all know that they are there to join the army, achieve a goal, blah blah blah, get from A to B, whatever it may be. Now, when you're in let's just say, an environment outside of the military, and you've got people that come to work who are there because they get paid, but they've got an option. They can just quit and go and work somewhere else. They can give you kind of shit back. They might, because they know you can't punish them. You can't really do anything. So they'll, they might not care about producing the results. They just want to get paid and go home. So how do you motivate? It's a lot harder in that situation because not everyone is on that same wavelength of wanting to achieve greatness, if you want to call it that. And if it's to achieve profits, if you might say to your group of soldiers who've all got the same mindset, we're going to risk our lives to go and save whoever. The point is, these people that didn't sign up don't have that selflessness to put their lives on the line to save other people. So if you had to get all of these people from the office and said to them, right, I'm going to rally you up, we're all going to run across there and risk our lives to save someone, they'd all tell you to get fucked, because that's not within their makeup to do that, which is why they didn't sign up. So not always, but you get what I'm saying. So interestingly, a lot of the time there is a false what's the word? People in the military believe they are better than they are at leadership. They are put in a situation where people just will do as they're told because that's what they've signed up to do. Now, I'm not saying they will just nod blindly and run into a hail of bullets, but then you're not asking them generally to do that. You still have to have some leadership skills, but what I'm saying is there is a little bit of a false narrative, if you want to call it that, with people within the military believing that they are better leaders than they actually are. So that can become a bit of an issue, but that leads me on to my final point, which is about belief. Now, before I get to that, I want to go back to something that did come up within the research, and I did find it really fascinating, and it was to do with practice within leadership. Now, I forgot to. I'm not going to be able to find them now, but I looked at probably 20, I would say, different articles of, and I want to say probably 18 of them were ex-US military. Maybe one or two weren't. But the point is, they were looking at leadership within the military and transferable skills to take from the military into the civilian world, and transferring those skills into your new job, post-military. And what was quite interesting is they were all bigging up, how great they are as leaders within the military and the skills that you get and being able to work as part of a team and all this sort of stuff. And it's true. It's all true. They are great skills and traits to have. Now, here's what I found fascinating about that. What probably 80% of the people that I interviewed all kind of said roughly in common, if you pick through it, was that the reason they believe they became better leaders was not because they were born to do it, but because they were put into those positions a lot earlier, and they were pushed and it was identified earlier. So they would join at, let's just say, 18. And then when they're in that group of, say there's 20 of them, 30 of them going through basic training, very quickly you identify the people who would make good leaders. And then they are put in charge. And then they are pushed and challenged. And every time they succeed and do well, they are given the next step up. And then they are given more responsibility, and they're pushed further, and then they're put into leadership training, and then they're pushed further again and again and again, and they're put in high pressure scenarios, and they're pushed to the point of failure. So a lot of these leaders who fail will crumble and go, I'm a shit leader. But within the army, what they do, or not just the army, but the military, what they do is they push you to failure. They make you fail, and then they say, well done, you did a really good job, go again. So you're not believing in yourself as a leader through success. These people are failing, but still being encouraged to carry on leading because they are purposely being pushed to failure. So it's incredibly interesting that all of these people say that the ones that I interviewed will say that they were pushed as teenagers into roles with, right, you're in charge. Get your team ready for 0500. Everyone needs to be in this area with this certain kit ready to go. You're in charge. And they'll go, okay, and they'll take it on. And either they sink or swim, essentially. They either embrace it and go, okay, I'm in charge, right, I'm taking no shit, or they just can't do it. And the point is, the ones that do it, they push them and push them and push them and push them, and they do evolve. So because they're practicing positions of leadership, and they're put in these positions of pressure, and they are given tasks to learn how to speak to people, and they will see other leaders on a daily basis, how they get, and the point is, the leaders that they see are the leaders that were, say, 20 years ago. They went through with their group, and they just were highlighted as great leaders, and they went up and up and up. So you end up in a pyramid of great leaders, because everyone that was good and was highlighted was trained and pushed further up, trained, pushed further up, trained, pushed further up. And these people just keep going higher and higher and higher. And then you're constantly surrounded by these good leaders. Now, I'm not saying they're all good, but that is what usually happens. Now, in an office environment, you usually, or even anywhere really, even if you took a manual job, so maybe not a farmer, but say someone in a construction environment, you start at the bottom, and then you become, like, you're a trainee, and then you become like let's say a carpenter, and then you become, like, say, a master carpenter, or the person in charge of the carpenters, or whatever that name is, and then they'll just slowly move up until someone will say, you're a bit older now, you're a very good carpenter, why don't we move you into a leadership position? And they do that at 40 years old. So the first time that person becomes a leader is at 30 or 40 years old. Now, they were a great carpenter, but they weren't a great leader. Now, that would be the same as the army saying, we're going to have 1,000 infantry soldiers, and essentially none of them are in charge. They are just soldiers, and we've got one person in charge, and you as a soldier have no responsibility. All you've got to do is turn up, get on with it. And you're going to do that for 20 years. And then in 20 years, now we're going to put you into a leadership position. They're going to go, well, I've never done this before. So that 40-year-old has less experience as a leader than the person who was started their army training at 18, was identified as a bit of a good leader, and then pushed. So by the time they're 21, let's just say they were identified in the first year. They've now got 2 years, from 19 to 21, they've got 2 years of being pushed as a leader. So at 21 years old, they're a much better leader than the person who was a carpenter for 20 years, who's now been told, right, you need to be in charge of all the other carpenters. So yes, they're older, but they've got no leadership experience. They're the most experienced carpenter, maybe, but they know nothing about leadership. Now, I found that fascinating, that they were saying that being pushed into those leadership positions is what made them better leaders much earlier. And there were other trends. Which interestingly matched when I did all the research and my looking at all the literature. It kind of was the trends were there across the globe. So if you're looking at the military in Australia, you're looking at military in the United States, you're looking at military in the UK. I think there was a few European militaries as well. Was there an Indian one? I can't remember, but quite a few different militaries, and they all say roughly the same things about selflessness and looking after your men first, and planning and all this sort of stuff. So they're all kind of similar. So the trends are there. And then if you look up the common trends for a project manager, they're similar. They are very, very, very similar. So yes, those traits are transferable. All right, they're not, what's the word? Technical experience is going to be completely different. So one is a leader in an environment where you're trying not to get killed and you're potentially trying to kill other people. And the other one, if you take the carpentry one, you're trying to build something. So the technical skills are completely different, but the management of people is the same. And the other thing is, if you've got someone who, say, someone becomes a carpenter manager at, just say 40, and you have 5 of them, none of them really fail that obviously, because there's not a huge amount of pressure and a huge amount that will catch them out. So you can get away with being a shitter manager and kind of coast through, and then your men might not be happy below you on the carpentry job, but you're okay. Whereas if you're in a military environment and the pressure is high and the stakes are high, you will get shipped out of that position before you can blink if you cannot handle that position. So you're very quickly replaced with someone who can do it. Think of, I think it was Band of Brothers, when they're attacking the village maybe, and Winters is told he has to watch, and the dude who had not had much combat was just sitting behind the straw bale, just crying, and everyone was dying around him. He had no clue. And then the other dude ran in, and he was just like, just ran through everyone. I love that bit. Runs through this, just past tanks and bullets, jumps over the wall, tells them blokes to whatever he tells them. But the point is, you get found out a lot quicker in a military environment. Whereas in a carpentry environment, you can blag it and wing it for a little bit more. So that was interesting as well. Now here's the thing. Here's where I think this is probably the secret to being a great leader. I think this is the one ingredient you can't not have. You can have other ingredients, like you need a lot of ingredients to be in a leadership position and prosper. Now, essentially, sorry. Go back a bit. Now, I discussed last time about the definition of a leader, and the definition of a leader is someone who has followers. That's it. So you could literally be the leader of a church, but because those people follow that religion, they will automatically follow you. Not because you're a great leader, but because you just happen to have the same religion. You could play for a football team, the manager gets sacked, a new manager comes in, he is now your leader, you follow him because he just is the manager now. He appoints a new captain, and you just have to follow that new captain. The queen dies and her son gets made into king. Who do we follow now? The king. Prime minister gets voted in. Now here's the thing, you could say, oh well, we voted him in. We had the choice of shit or shitter. And one of them gets voted in, and then that's who we got to follow. So the point is, we follow the person who is appointed in charge, or we choose to follow the person who benefits us. So if you're in an army situation and you've got a leader who says, I'm going to get you all out alive, you will go, okay, I'm going to follow you, because what you want, they are saying they want too. We're going to all get out of this alive, or I'm going to get as many of you out of this alive as possible. Everyone goes, okay, and then they follow him. Or he might say, we need to achieve this mission to save thousands of people. That's what we've signed up for. If you don't want that, then stay the fuck here, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of, ways people can manipulate you and all this sort of stuff. But anyway, the point is, that person in charge will get you to kind of go, okay. Bottom line is, that is what a leader is, and that is someone you follow. The difference is all these trends that people say, where they say, they're very good at galvanizing the group. They're very humble. They're very patient. They are selfless. They're protective. All these things are managerial skills that maintain your longevity as a leader. That's it. You can promise the world to get voted in, but you need to deliver something for those people to keep you in power. That is the key. Now, as a politician, you can kind of cheat a bit because you're in for 4 years. Yes, you can get impeached, And what you can do is pretend that there's a reason why you couldn't deliver, but you can say, I'm going to deliver this, I'm going to deliver that, just give it bullshit, and then you get voted in, and you're like, sweet, I'm here for 4 years now, everything can get fucked, and you go, yeah, I can't quite deliver because Will Smith slapped Chris Rock and everyone's like, what? You're like, yeah, it made some problems with. So anyway, the point is, you can get put into a position of power by promising something, but you need those skills, those managerial skills. And a lot of people say they're leadership skills. They're not. They are managerial skills that keep you in a leadership position or make you believe that you are a good person to be leading them. That doesn't make you a leader. Managerial skills. Managerial. So great managerial skills would be being a great coach. It would be someone who is giving people responsibility. It would be me taking responsibility for my team. It would be all of these things. But that is being a great manager. Now, as a great manager, you are going to learn a lot of these skills a lot earlier, and you're going to be able to refine them and find out what type of leader you are and refine the type of leader you are by being put in those leadership positions a lot earlier and in a lot high pressure environments where you need to be very good very quickly. You need to adapt, you need to be problem solving, you need to be able to make decisions because people's lives are at risk. So if you can refine those skills, you're going to find it a breeze when you come out of the military. Here is what I think. Yes, it's true. Those trends are all of the things I've just mentioned are going to make you a better leader outside of the military. So I do think the military does have a positive effect. But do you know the number one thing that I think helps you more than anything? The number one trait that without this, it wouldn't work. None of the other things would work. You need this one thing. And I find it interesting. And that is, every single one of those ex-military that I asked and said, do you believe being in the military made you a better leader in your project manager role? And they all said yes. Yes, confidently said yes. Now here's what's interesting. You ask people who are non-military and you say to them, do you believe you are a good project manager? A lot of people quite insecure and timid and ashamed to say yes. So they will kind of go, yeah, I'm okay. No one says, yes, I am. That confidence in yourself by default, not only will it put you into a leadership position, but it will make people follow you. And people will want to follow you because you believe it. They don't believe themselves, but because you so adamantly believe in yourself, they will believe in you too. And that's the trick. That's the key. Believing in yourself. There are so many confident people who will say, for example, no, whoa. Let me go back a bit. Let's look at the politicians quickly. So you've got the people who believe they are great leaders. And then you've got the ones who are the con artists. The ones that know they aren't, but they will lie to achieve their own agenda, which might be getting power to make more money. So they believe not what they're saying, but they can say it confidently because they're not trying to convince you it's true and they don't believe it themselves. So it's not like, you're faking it till you make it. Then they're not trying to be good leaders. It makes it a lot easier to lie if you're not trying to be that thing. If they don't care about being a good leader and someone says, are you a good leader? And they say, yeah, I'm really good. I'm the best there is. I'll help all of you do this. They get in power and then just fleece everyone for all their money. It's easy to lie about something that you are not trying to be good at. If instead you don't quite believe you're a great manager or a great leader, and someone says to you, do you think you're a great leader? And they don't quite believe it, they'll go, well, yes, I do, and you don't sound convincing. The difference is people from the military, and strangely, and I find this fascinating as well, Americans, not all, but a very high percentage of Americans are very, very confident in their abilities, whereas people from the UK are the opposite. They don't have any faith in themselves. So, are you a good leader? Yes. The people that defy this are people from Essex. So Americans and the county of Essex. That's it. Those people will believe in themselves whether they've done it or not, because they just do. And that will put them in that position of power, and then it will make them those things that we're thinking about. All right, so things like being selfless is a skill that you need to, maybe you never can learn. You either have that or you don't. But if you're a selfless person, believing that you are a good leader means that you will be able to make decisions and be confident in yourself in making those decisions. And then because you're confident, you come across as calming, and then people believe in you, and then you manage to get the whole group to believe in what you're saying and all travel in the same direction. So just by having that confidence and that self-belief, you kind of tick off lots of boxes with just that one thing alone. If you try to convince everyone to do the same thing, and you try to you try to tick all the other boxes without believing it, you're not going to do it. You can't be you can be selfless, but you can't be decisive and, I don't want to say comforting, but have that composure, that confident composure. You can't have those. You can't have someone who has the confidence to ask difficult questions. So to say to someone, how are things at home? If someone is acting a bit strange, sometimes you need to say, is everything okay? Everything okay with your family? Are you feeling right mentally? Do you need a rest? If you don't have the confidence in yourself, then you might not have the confidence to ask those difficult questions. So again, it all comes down to confidence and self-belief. Do you believe you're a great manager? Now, you might have someone who's shite, really bad, doesn't have the other skills, but they believe they do. Now, here's the thing. I did discuss this the other day. If you have, how do I put this? How did I put this the other day? There's a metaphor I used, and I thought it was really, really good. Okay. If you have 1,000 people, and you said to them all, there is a pot of gold at the other end of that minefield, and you said to them, do you believe you can get across? And they say, no, and they don't even try. How many of those 1,000 are going to get the gold? None, because none of them tried. Now, if you then said to 100 people that did believe it, how many of you believe you can get that pot of gold? And those 100 said, yeah, I do. And 90 of them got blown up, turned into pink dust, stepped on a mine. 10 made it across. So what percentage of that 1,000 made it? 0. What percentage of that 100 made it across? 10. So it's 10%, which is 10% more. I say 10% more. It's infinitely more, because not one of the other group made it across. 10 made it across from the group that believed it. You don't hear about the other 90 that all blew up. But the point is, if you don't believe, you're never going to even... You're never going to start, you're never going to try, so you're never going to even attempt to be a leader. Of those 100 that believe they are, 10 will succeed, 90 will fail. Just plucking numbers out of the air. So my point is, if you don't believe you are a good leader, you are never. I'm already disagreeing with what I'm saying. But you're never going to be a good leader if you're in a position where you're going to volunteer for leadership. Here's where it's different. And here's where I was going to say I kind of not believe in it already. I've used the metaphor before about the miners. You've got a bunch of miners and they are on strike because they don't want to go down the mines. They're not getting paid enough. The safety isn't down there enough. And one person says, I'm not going back down there until you sort our money out. Everyone else looks around and says, go on, Gerald. We're all agreeing with you. We're all going to follow you. Gerald, it's not that he doesn't care about anyone else, but Gerald will say, we all need to be paid decent money and the safety needs to be improved. Now, he's not doing it to be in charge. He just believes that. So he believes in the cause. So he doesn't believe in himself. He believes in the cause. So if you believe in the cause 100%, people will follow you. And if that's because what you believe in is what they want. So again, if you as a good leader in a military environment, they believe that, over long term, you are there for them, you care about them, you're not going to put them in danger and blah, 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 they'll follow you. But in that scenario, as soon as, for example, let's say they get their raise, the miners get their raise, and the safety gets improved. They all go back down to the mines, and the people in charge go back to being in charge again. And old Gerald was just at the bottom, on the bottom rung. He's just swinging his pickaxe, and no one cares about him again. But let's just say now they all need new boots. Do they go to their managers, or do they all go to Gerald? They all go to Gerald. Gerald, do something. You fixed it last time. So now Gerald is seen as that Christ figure who is going to save them. That's Spartacus. That's who they go to. So he is not the leader in charge of their jobs, but he is the one they go to save them. So again, that's an interesting thing that I do want to look at. Again, because these people believe that Gerald can get them what he got them because he got it last time. He came through, but he didn't want to be in charge, and he wasn't doing something to look after people or managing people, or he didn't need to be organised or anything. All he did was stirred up a storm when no one did anything until they got their boots. But he was very good at rallying the troops and everyone following him. He was very inspirational, which is what Martin Luther King was. He wasn't a military tactician. He didn't have to be very organised. He didn't have to do any of that. He just rallied the troops. That is what the elites don't like. And that, again, is a different type of leader. But that is a leader nonetheless, because people will follow. You don't need those managerial skills to be that type of leader. If Martin Luther King had said, I have a dream where basically everyone is treated as equals, that's the short, abridged version, and he had achieved that, then everyone would have said, well done, Martin. And that would have been it. They wouldn't have then... people might have got a bit carried away and said, let's put him as president, blah, blah, blah. But the point is that, yes, people might then become transfixed on you being a leader, but a lot of the time it is about, because you're saying you can deliver what... Say, for example, they'd said to Martin, right, now you can fix the country's problems. And he said, yes, I believe I can. Everyone would have followed him because he delivered on getting equality for black people. But if he'd have achieved that and then they said, do you think you can change the country? And he went, no, I just wanted to get equal rights for black people. Everyone would have said, oh, okay. And that was that. So it's about a belief thing. Is about a belief thing. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm still working my way through the data. I'm still gonna finish this. I've got to finish this research. Got to write everything up. It is incredibly interesting to me. I don't know how it is to everyone else, but I am finding the whole. I just find leadership fascinating, and I'm finding this transferable skills and leadership and the psychology side of it. I mean, I just find it fascinating. But now here's the thing. I want to do my PhD in. I want to call it the philosophy of leadership in a way, but I am really struggling to find a place that matches what I want to do, because most places that study leadership are business, and that's not what I'm looking at. I want to look at the psychology of it and the philosophy of leadership, all those sort of things, the Machiavelli type side of leadership. And no one really does it. Nowhere really does it. So I'm really struggling to find the right supervisor to go through my PhD with me. So if anyone knows of any great leadership supervisors, please, please, please send them my way, because I am looking for that person I can go on this journey with, and I am, let's just say, very outside the box in terms of academia and my theories. So I know that a lot of people don't like that. They're very strict. So I do need to find a very patient, special supervisor. So yeah, like I said, if anyone's got any tips, any advice, anyone they can point out to me, then please do. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed talking about it, to be honest. Like I said, I found it fascinating, and yeah, I hope you have a good week. I'll keep you posted on some new stuff coming up, and yeah, I'll speak to you again soon.